Hello, it's Rosstafa here, and I'm playing a game called Primal Carnage. It's a team-based shooter, similar to Left 4 Dead and Team Fortress 2, except you play either as dinosaurs or humans. It's pretty much the ideal concept for a game for me, because I've always been a big dinosaur fan. Anyway, in this video I'm going to go over the human classes. At the moment I'm playing a Commando, which is your basic assault class. Uses a machine gun, which also has a grenade launcher on it. The machine gun has quite a spread on it, as you see, so it's not that accurate, but it's got a good rate of fire, which means that it's great for enemies up close, especially the Carnotaurus and the T-Rex, because they're so big it's hard to miss, so having a wide spread makes it easier to hit them, so you don't really need that much help. You only have 3 grenades for the grenade launcher on you at any time, so I tend to use them quite sparingly and use them, well, I say that, I wasted that on a raptor, when really you should be using them on the T-Rexes and the Carnos, so you can take them down quickly before they start ruining your team's plans. By the way, you see that player there who has the orange eye above his head. That means that he's on, it's kind of like radar, means the other dinosaurs can actually see where that character is, whereas normally they wouldn't be able to see the humans. But Pteranodons and Dilophosaurs, I believe, can actually mark human characters, so they act like UAVs in a way, or radar. As you can see here, the Pteranodons have their attack, which is to lift you up and drop you somewhere, which is quite annoying, but you can stop obviously things like that if you shoot them while they're holding someone and save them. This is the Pathfinder. This character is close range and uses a shotgun as well as flares. The flares, dinosaurs can't really see very well with the flares, so you throw them down and it sort of just obscures your team a little bit, so it hides you and makes you a little bit more difficult to see, and it also, if you're alone, it gives you an opportunity to sort of dance around a bit and move out of the way of attacks and use the shotgun to take down enemies quickly. The problem that I have found though is that the shotgun doesn't do a tremendous amount of damage, or at least not enough. It could be buffed a little bit, but it is good. It's more good for the raptors and the dilos that you can take down fairly quickly because they don't have much health, but for the Tyrannosaur and the Carnotaurus, there are better weapons to take them down, I think. It also doesn't have very good range, obviously, being a shotgun, so that was kind of a waste of time there trying to take down that Pteranodon. It just can't shoot that far. So you kind of have to rely on other players to be able to save you. It's a fun class to play though. Like I said, it's close quarters, so you kind of want to pick carefully where you're going. It's nice to have a bit of open space, because then you can dance around quickly and move out of the way. Whereas if you're in a confined space, you've not got far to move, and you've got to hope they basically miss your attacks. If they're a raptor, for instance, hope that they don't pounce on you. See, that's going to make him a little bit harder for him to see people, so it's a good way of backing up your team. So it's half support class, half close quarters combat. That's the venom from the Dilophosaurus on your screen. It just makes it seriously difficult to tell where you are, and it's just impossible to attack and coordinate yourself. Plus it does do bleed damage, so you kind of have to just guess where they are, take them out, hope they don't keep damaging you while you can't see. You can see when other players are blinded because they turn purple. Anyway, this class is the Pyro. It's not... It is kind of a heavy class basically. when you think Pyro, you're obviously going to think of Team Fortress 2. I think that this class is a bit more than that. The flames not only do a lot of damage, but they make it very hard for other dinosaurs and actually players to see, because you've just got flames everywhere. So it's good when you're fighting, say, a pack of raptors, to just throw flame everywhere, because it does damage and it makes it very difficult for them to focus on targets and pounce on people. The flamethrower actually has a chainsaw attached to it as well, which is pretty cool. Though I think never used it really. The cool thing about the flames obviously is that a character stays on fire for a short amount of time, so it does do a little bit more damage than if you die. There's a chance that hopefully if their health's low enough it will kill them a few seconds later. You also have grenades as your secondary weapon. You don't have many of them, but they do a tremendous amount of damage. It's best to use them at the right time, particularly on the heavy classes like the T-Rex and the Carnotaurus. Throw them down to take them out quickly, and that's why everyone likes playing Carnos. They're just ridiculous, just throwing people out of the way. This is a scientist, which is essentially a sniper class. I really like this class. It's not too powerful and the range is really good, because the range on the rest of the classes isn't that great. The Pyro has alright range. The Commando, just the further away the target is, the more spread you have. The Pathfinder can't shoot very far at all, and the last class, the Trapper, does have a decent bit of range, but not nearly as much as a Scientist, obviously. But obviously in situations like this, which is close quarters, it makes it incredibly difficult to stay coordinated and focus on small, really fast moving targets, especially the raptors, because they move so fast. But at distance, you're okay. And they're particularly good at picking pteranodons off people, though I didn't notice that player being taken away there when I was playing, so bad on me. I'm really sorry for how abysmal this gameplay is. I was kind of focusing on showing the different aspects of each class, and as a result my gameplay suffered dramatically. Normally I'm a lot better, honestly. Here you're seeing the tranquilizer gun. As you can see, it's made the Pteranodon walk a bit weirdly. It does that to all classes. Basically, it just sort of slows them down, disorientates them. It makes it very hard for them to see, hard to walk. In the case of the T-Rex and the Carnotaurus, they'll sort of walk oddly, like moving side to side, and they won't be able to see. Their screen will be blurred a bit. Not as much as the Dilophosaurus venom, but still pretty blurred. I don't tend to use it much, purely because I tend to be wanting to do damage, but if there's enough of us around, then it's sometimes good to just lay off the damage a bit and use the tranquilizer to slow them down. So I barely hit even with my kills and deaths there, but bugger it. The next class I'm going to show you is the Trapper, which is probably the most fun class to play in this game. Your main weapon is a net gun, which has limited ammo and a long reload time, but the amount of fun you can have with it is worth it. And I'm just going to struggle jumping up here. Also, I have a cold, so I sound like shit. I'm sorry. The net gun basically, obviously it can't kill, but it can slow things down, like this. It can still do short range attacks, but the Carno can't charge. However, at the time of making this video, they have updated it, and I believe that the Carnotaurus can now charge through nets. But on all other classes, the Raptor, the Dilo and the Pteranodon, it pins them down to the ground so they can't move for a few seconds, and in that time you can melee kill them or just shoot them. When someone else kills them, they get a net assist, and I think you get an assist as well. With the Tyrannosaur, it slows them down a little bit, but it mostly just stops them from being able to eat people for a few seconds, which is really good because the Tyrannosaurus is essentially a one-hit kill if it gets to you. You can avoid these guys, you can avoid all the other classes, but if the Tyrannosaur comes up to you this close, it will kill you. So netting it gives your team a few seconds to take it down before it eats them, basically. Obviously, you do have secondary weapons. Your secondary weapons are 2 pistols, which can be shot pretty quickly and do a fair bit of damage. The rate of fire really makes up for the fact that this class isn't really a damage dealing class. More often than not, instead of meleeing, I'll just net an enemy and then shoot the shit out of them while they're on the floor. You can just sort of rinse the triggers and do a tremendous amount of damage. You can see how long it takes to reload though, and that's how you use the net gun. It's really good. Like, it's so much fun just netting raptors in mid-air as they're jumping at you. But as you can see, when you get overwhelmed, because it's not a damage dealing class, there's just not much you can do. So yeah, my thoughts on the human classes so far is, you'd think in a game where you're fighting against dinosaurs that it would be very one-sided, and that the dinosaurs would just essentially wipe the floor of the humans all the time. But in actuality, it's very well balanced. The human classes have their own strengths and weaknesses. The developers said basically that they wanted it to be kind of like a game of rock, paper, scissors, in that certain classes will trump other classes. So there's the chat's kind of funny at the moment. There's certain classes that will do better against others, like the scientist is going to do better against pteranodons because it will be able to take them out from far range, whereas the other classes can't really do that. The trapper is going to be much better at taking out things like raptors because it will be able to stop them before they pounce on someone, etc, etc. So it's very balanced, and each class has something that can take them down and something they're good against as well. The one thing that I have noticed is that as a human character you have to stay in a group. If you try and Rambo in this game, you will just get destroyed, because if a raptor pounces on you or a pteranodon picks you up, if there's no one around to help you, you're going to die. So you have to stay in a group in order to be able to rely on other human characters to save you from other dinosaurs, and purely for the fact of damage as well. Tyrannosaurs, while they aren't invincible and they aren't like ridiculously overpowered as you might expect, they do take quite a beating. So it is better to be in a group where you have people around that can deal out a good amount of damage in a quick amount of time, and stay coordinated, because this is a very fast game when you've got raptors darting around taking you out, pteranodons flying in, dilophosaurs blinding you, carnotaurs charging through knocking everyone out of the way. It can be really difficult to stay together as a group, but it is vital. Like, the first thing I do when I spawn is I look, you can see the yellow outlines where people are across the map. I look for where the most of those are and I head to that, because the longer you're on your own, the more vulnerable you are. This is a beta at the moment, obviously, so things are subject to change. But so far, for a beta, it's incredibly well balanced. I've not really felt like the only class that I've had issues with is the Pteranodon, and that's purely for my own technical skill, and I'll explain that in a future video. But the rest of them, they're all really fun to play. Like, there's not a single class that I could see myself playing 90% of the time, because more often than not on games, there's always you know, everyone has that go-to class. Even on Call of Duty, you'll have weapons that you feel more comfortable with. On TF2, there'll be certain classes that you feel more comfortable with. In this, I think that you can pretty much jump into anyone and do reasonably well at it and not feel like, oh, this class is rubbish. It's so difficult to use. All of the human characters are pretty good. You can get a good kill-death ratio on any one of them, providing that you play to their strengths and stick with a group. No, I really like the human characters. I like playing them as much as I like playing dinosaurs, which says a lot. I think it says that they've not put as much. They've not put so much effort into the dinosaur characters to the detriment of humans, because it is a two-class game, a two-faction game essentially, and they're both very different. And if you bugger one up, you're doing yourself a mischief, because you have one half of the game that's essentially broken. You know, if the human characters weren't fun to play, people would back out of games until they could play dinosaurs, or they just wouldn't enjoy the game as much. It wouldn't be as balanced. So the fact that they've spent a lot of time and attention on making the human classes enjoyable, I think is great, because it makes it so much more fun. And to be honest, the one thing I've had so much fun in this game, just shooting a T-Rex in the cunt, because why not, is actually just shooting dinosaurs. Like, there was one match where I got picked up by a Pteranodon and put on top of a crane, and I was a Pathfinder, and I had to fight off these two swooping Pteranodons that were coming in at me from either side, trying to pick me up, and I had only a bit of ammo left, and I obviously couldn't get down because it was so high up. And there are a lot of moments like that in this game where mad things happen and you have to adapt, and I think games like that are the best ones, because every match something happens that's interesting. It's like Halo. The amount of times I play Halo and something insane would happen, like someone would blow up across the map or get killed by a cone, for instance. That's what made the game interesting. You don't want to play a game that's stale and that every match feels the same, because there's no room for fun, basically. With this, it is a lot of fun. Things happen that are just funny. Even if you're losing, it doesn't really matter. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying playing the human characters, and I'm looking forward to where they're going to take it. As I say, it is beta at the moment, so things are subject to change. But to be honest, I don't think there's a great deal they need to do. On release, this game will only have 3 or 5 maps. I can't remember exactly. And only one game type. Because at the moment, Team Deathmatch is the only game type you can play. They're still talking about what other ones they're going to add. But what they've done so far is really, really good. And I think that it can only get better. Once they figure out where they want to go with it, once they add more content, I think this has the potential to be a really, really popular game. Because who doesn't want to play as a dinosaur? And with first-person shooters being so popular, it's essentially the best of both worlds. And there's not many games with dinosaurs in that worked and that were really awesome. There were a few Jurassic Park ones, but for everyone there was, well, that's a really weird leg glitch, and I didn't notice that when I was playing. Oh well, beta is beta. There's very few games that with dinosaurs in that were really good. Turok was okay, but it had its flaws. As I said, some of the Jurassic Park games were really good, but you know, I think this might be the first one that there's actually no problems with it, and they've got a lot of things planned for it, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that the humans are surprisingly well balanced considering what they're up against, and don't be put off